This is Brandon, and this is a video on how to replace the rear main seal on a 98 Plymouth Neon. I was leaking oil pretty bad, and I thought at first that it was the oil sending unit, and I made a video of that on replacing that. And that wasn't the case, so now I'm going to replace the rear main seal, and that involves taking out the transmission. It's going to be quite a job I'm not looking forward to. To start with, I already got the front on jacks, tires off on both sides, because you got to take the drive axles off. And then, first move I'm going to do is take out the battery, this electrical box, probably remove this, that'll probably be in the way, and then we'll go from there. Alright, I got the battery box out. I got this the wires and this electric box. I got it wired up so it's out of my way. Now if we look down in here, I'm going to have to take these off, and then there's a bracket there I got to take off, and then there's a bracket here I got to take off. Alright, I got these brackets off. I put the bolts back in so I don't lose them. There was a bracket here I took off. Pried the cables off, and then the shifter cable and this other cable I just put up out of the way. I just removed this plug that was right there. That was easy, it just pulled straight out, no clips or nothing. And then there's two transmission cooler lines. One right here has a clamp, should be easy to take off. Then one underneath it, it's a little too dark to see in there. Well, there's two. Take those off. Alright, I got this dipstick out of the way and I put a rag in it so no dirt will get in there. I took these two lines off, transmission cooler lines. And now the next step, since we're up here, we can start taking a few of the topside bell housing bolts out. This part makes you feel good, like you're actually getting far along.
Petroleum with Safelite Auto Glass.
When you have auto glass damage, it makes a big...
Alright, now the next step is to take the drive axles out. First we're going to take this cotter pin out. There's going to be a nut in there. It might be hard to remove. You got to use maybe a pry bar and hold this so it don't move, because right now it moves. Then break it loose. Alright, now that we got this nut off, we're going to be able to take this, there's a nut on the bottom of this tie rod, take that off, then this should be able to lift up off. And then on this control arm, where's it at? There's a bolt here somewhere. Right here. Take that off, then we'll be able to pry this down. Pry that right off of there. Alright, once you got that nut off on the bottom of the tie rod, what you'll need is some kind of puller. You fit that on there and then turn that, and it should be able to press out. Alright, so here you need a big old pry bar. And you can press that down and separate the pieces. And there we go. That's what kind of pry bar I use. I use my big breaker bar, and then I put this pipe on the end of it. So here I loosened the axle from the hub. It was sticking out here. I hit it lightly and carefully with a sledgehammer, popped it out. So now I'm going to pull it out and get ready to disconnect it from the transmission up there. I'm going to do that with a pry bar, put it between the transmission and the drive axle, and carefully pry it out. So here it is, I got it out. Wasn't all that easy for some reason, prying out. That right there is one of the ridges I was using for the pry bar, but I finally got it. Make sure you just don't pull it out by the end, because you can damage the internal parts. Now we're underneath the engine, or underneath the car, and what it amounts to now is I got a jack holding up the engine. Has to take the motor mounts out. One of them's right here, and just finding all the bolts connected transmission to the engine. And once you start getting down to the last ones, I'm going to put a transmission jack underneath it. Alright, I got all the bolts out that I can think of, and I got my jack stand holding my transmission up. I got this dust cover off because pretty soon I'm going to be taking these bolts out to connect it to the torque converter. But right now, at the moment, I'm going to go up top here. I'm going to take this transmission mount off. And I believe you get to it from the wheel well. There's a little rubber cup that went right here. You had to pry that out, and then you can get to the bolt right inside. I'm going to do that right now. Alright, now I removed all 4 bolts from the torque converter to this plate. And to get to all 4 bolts, you turn the engine clockwise right here with a socket, and there's a pulley in there with a bolt that you can turn. Now I'm going to totally remove this transmission mount. Got to remove that bolt and then remove all the bolts holding the transmission mount on, which I think there's 3. You have to lower the transmission and engine to get to them. Alright, I got all the motor mounts out. I got all these bolts out. There was 1 bolt over here, way up there, that I didn't see, that was keeping the transmission on. I got that one. Now it's coming apart. I'm going to lower the transmission jack slowly and start lowering it back. And then lowering it until I can get it out from underneath the bottom. Alright, so I'm lowering it. Everything's going okay. You want to take your time doing this. You want to check around, look on top, make sure you didn't leave any wires hooked onto it or hoses, anything that could damage. Alright, and there it is. We had to raise the car a little more to get the transmission to clear it, but we got it out. And then next I'm going to take this off and try to get to the rear main seal.